You ever notice how the problems always seem to hit the wrong people? Farmers who voted for tariffs are now losing their farms. Workers who cheered for small government are begging for bailouts. People who wanted to drain the swamp are watching billionaires get richer while they get poorer. And somehow it's always someone else's fault. Not the policies, not the politicians, never the choices they made. It's the immigrants, the liberals, the radical left trying to give people health care. Meanwhile, the math isn't mathing. We've got $4 trillion added to the debt for tax cuts nobody needed. Billions going to foreign countries while American farms collapse. And a government that shuts down over helping its own citizens but never hesitates to help corporations. This isn't left versus right anymore. This is basic arithmetic. And today, we're watching people realize in real time that slogans don't pay bills, that America first doesn't mean you first, and that sometimes the consequences of your choices come home to roost. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's break it down.
You showed up to work and refused to do your job, you would be fired. Why do politicians get paid for it? So there's a petition floating around right now that says Congress shouldn't be paid if the government is shut down. And honestly, I'm signing it with both hands, both feet, and a Sharpie in my mouth while I'm scribbling away. Because explain to me how regular civil servants, people who actually make America run, don't get a paycheck during a shutdown, even if they have to work. But the folks responsible for the shutdown keep getting the cash checks anyway. Think about it. TSA agents still have to show up. Air traffic controllers still at work. Prison guards still at work. Military still reporting for duty. Why? Because all of these people are considered essential. But essential doesn't mean deserving of pay when Congress can't get their act together. Congress's actual job is to manage the purse strings for America. That's literally their role in this little three-branch government setup thing we got, even though Republicans act like we don't have three equal branches of government. But imagine if you told your boss, I'm not going to do the work that you hired me to do, but you better make sure that my paycheck still clears on Friday. You would be fired and laughed right out the door. So yeah, if you don't do your job, you shouldn't get paid. And so if that's how it works for the rest of us, I'm figuring it needs to work the exact same way for Congress. But right now, Congress gets to live in opposite land, and they get to still bring in money even when they refuse to work. So I'm with the petition. You shut down the government, you shut down your own paycheck too. Because if we got to feel the pain, y'all gonna feel it too.
You know what's funny? Nobody bats an eye when a cashier gets fired for showing up late twice. But Congress can literally refuse to do the one job they were elected to do, pass a budget, and still collect $174,000 a year. Think about that math for a second. You've got people working airport security making $40K, still required to show up during a shutdown, getting $0 until this whole circus ends. But the senator who voted against funding the government, his direct deposit hits just fine. It's not even about punishment at this point. It's about basic logic. If essential workers don't get paid when the government shuts down, then the people who shut it down shouldn't either. That's not radical. That's called accountability. And maybe, just maybe, if Congress actually felt the squeeze like everyone else, they'd figure out how to negotiate before dragging the entire country through this mess. Because right now, there's zero incentive for them to care. They'll argue for weeks, make speeches, blame the other side, and go home to a paycheck that never stops coming. Meanwhile, TSA agents are deciding between rent and groceries. That's not governance, that's extortion.
Yeah, so this government shutdown that's happening, it isn't because of politics. It's about Democrats demanding a $1.5 trillion spending spree. And if they don't get it, Americans have to suffer.
Hi, Savannah. I've noticed you guys are all running with the same cute little talking point, which is the Democrats are shutting down the government, demanding a $1.5 trillion spending spree. Hey, Savannah, remember 5 minutes ago when you guys added $4 trillion to the debt? Even after you brought in Elon Musk and Doge and all that, and you pretended that you were cutting the budget, and then you added $4 trillion to the debt. And Savannah, in that bill, over $1 trillion went to the top 5%. These are people making over $400,000 a year. So let's just see if we got this right, Savannah. So Republicans are against spending $1.5 trillion on the middle class to make sure that 95% of Americans can stay on their healthcare plan. But Republicans are for spending over $1 trillion to make sure that billionaires can buy a new yacht or perhaps a new vacation home. Hey, Savannah, I've got a brilliant idea. How about instead of spending $1 trillion giving tax cuts to billionaires who don't need it, we spend that money on 95% of Americans to make sure they can keep their health care. That sounds good, right, Savannah? I think we can all agree on that. Oh, we can't? Oh, okay. So you guys only want to spend money on billionaires. You don't want to spend money on 95% of Americans. Okay. All right. Well, at least now we know exactly where the two parties stand, Savannah. Democrats are out here fighting for middle-class Americans to keep their health care, and Republicans are out here fighting for Jeffrey Epstein's best friends. All right, glad we could clear that up, Savannah. So you guys enjoy your time over there with the billionaires. We'll be over here fighting for the middle class. Let us know when you guys would like to reopen the government after your shutdown. Okay? All right, thanks. We'll be here ready to talk whenever. Okay, all right, good luck.
This $1.5 trillion spending spree line is everywhere right now. And it sounds scary, right? Trillion with a T. Must be reckless, must be wasteful. Except here's what they're not telling you. That $1.5 trillion? It's to keep healthcare subsidies alive, to make sure 15 million Americans don't lose their insurance, to protect people who are one medical emergency away from bankruptcy. Meanwhile, just a few months ago, we passed tax cuts that added $4 trillion to the debt, and over $1 trillion of that went to people making more than $400,000 a year, people who already have healthcare, people who own multiple homes, people who do not need government help. So let's be clear about what's happening here. Republicans are fine spending trillions on the wealthy, but when it comes to keeping working families insured, suddenly we're broke. It's not about fiscal responsibility. If it were, we'd be talking about the $4 trillion first. We'd be asking why billionaires need tax cuts while teachers are buying classroom supplies out of pocket. This is about priorities. And right now, the priority is protecting wealth, not health. You can call it a lot of things, but don't call it fair.
So the government shut down, NASA shut down, 3i Atlas is on approach, and nobody's telling the truth. Remember the recent rapture? Yeah, they say it's been rescheduled, like heaven runs on a calendar. And while everyone's laughing at the memes, aliens are crawling out of the oceans and stepping through glowing portals in the sky. Picture it, cities plunged into chaos, sirens wailing, fighter jets scrambling into the night, only to be torn apart midair by something older, smarter, and hungrier. These aren't little green men. These are predators, beings that watch us grow, fattened us up on technology, on lies, on distractions, just to harvest us when the time came. And the time is now. You'll see it soon enough. Creatures dragging people into the dark while neighbors barricade their doors, praying to gods who've long gone silent. Street lights flickering, the air tastes like metal, and the sound, swarms of them screaming through the sky as the earth splits open beneath our feet. This isn't science fiction anymore. It's judgment. It's invasion. It's extinction, dressed up as prophecy. And if you're still clinging to hope, I'll tell you what the news won't tell you. Humanity's countdown has already started, and there's no second date for survival. If you enjoyed that, give a follow, hit the like button, whatever.
Too many people that don't understand why the government is shut down right now, so I'm going to try to make this easy. A few months back, they passed something called the Big Beautiful Bill. The Big Beautiful Bill cut $1 trillion worth of Medicaid funding over the next 10 years. And they're saving that $1 trillion in a couple of different ways. First, they introduce work requirements for able-bodied citizens. This means if you can't prove that you're disabled, then you're required to work to receive Medicaid. You have to prove that you've either worked or volunteered or studied for a minimum of 80 hours a month. That's only 20 hours a week. Second, they made it to where you have to verify your qualification every 6 months. Before the Big Beautiful Bill, people could apply for Medicaid and then just remain on it. But now people are required to re-qualify every 6 months, proving that they put in that time at work or volunteering or studying. But if they'd rather just sit at home and be lazy rather than being a productive member of society while they're perfectly capable of being a productive member of society, then they'll lose their benefits. And that's how it saves the government money for healthcare to be used towards people that actually need it.
Let's talk about what work requirements actually do in practice. On paper, it sounds fair. You're able-bodied, you should work. You want benefits? Prove you're contributing. Simple, right? Except it's not simple. Because the people who design these requirements aren't the ones who have to navigate them. You've got to prove 80 hours a month. That's documentation, paperwork, verification. And if you're working gig jobs, freelancing, or doing under-the-table work because that's all you can find, good luck proving it. Miss a deadline because you didn't get the letter in time? Denied. Can't upload documents because you don't have reliable internet? Denied. Your employer didn't submit your hours correctly? Denied. And requalifying every 6 months means you're constantly one bureaucratic mistake away from losing everything. It's not about cutting fraud. It's about creating barriers so high that people give up. Because here's the truth. Most people on Medicaid already work. They're just not making enough to afford private insurance. So these requirements don't push people into jobs. They just push them off the rolls. And when someone loses coverage, they don't stop getting sick. They just stop getting care until it's an emergency. And then we all pay more. So yeah, this saves money, but only if you don't count the human cost.
So that's the first way that the big beautiful bill is working towards saving $1 trillion over the next 10 years. The second way is a little more difficult to explain, and it involves the hospital, the state, and the federal government. But here's a summary of how it works. A patient goes to the hospital, receives their services, and then pays their bill. When the patient pays that bill, they're not only paying the bill, but they're also paying a tax. That tax goes to the state, and the state puts it in a Medicaid fund. Then the federal government matches whatever money was put into that state's Medicaid fund. Then all of the money that was put into that Medicaid fund goes towards funding people who are approved for Medicaid. But in the big beautiful bill, they reduced the amount of money that the federal government is willing to put in the state's funds. Since there's less money coming out of the funds because they've eliminated the people abusing the system, they shouldn't have to put as much into the funds. And since they don't have to put as much into the funds, they don't have to tax the American population as much. But what does any of this have to do with illegal immigrants? See, the Democrats will tell you that illegal immigrants do not qualify for Medicaid in the first place, therefore this has nothing to do with them. However, they conveniently leave out one fact. While it is true that if somebody were to just walk across the border and apply for Medicaid, they would be denied, it's also true that if somebody walked across the border, got caught by an ICE agent, went to a court hearing, was put on parole, and then released back into our society, those people are no longer classified as illegal immigrants, but now they're classified as parolees. And those parolees do qualify for Medicaid. And in just 4 years under the Biden administration, 2.8 million illegal immigrants were put onto that parole status. The big beautiful bill also prevents that. So the next time you see a Democrat telling you that the big beautiful bill left millions of people without Medicaid, just keep in mind that those millions of people were either able-bodied American citizens who were abusing the system or people that came here illegally from other countries. And by removing those millions of people and their millions of medical bills, the government is now saving $1.5 trillion over the next 10 years, so that money can go towards American citizens who need the assistance. And the government is shut down right now because the Democrats want to reverse all of that. They want to reinstate that $1.5 trillion worth of spending.
Here's the part that gets me. We're told the government's shutting down because Democrats want to reinstate fraud. That's the narrative. Illegal immigrants, lazy Americans, people gaming the system. But the actual numbers tell a different story. The 15 million people who lose coverage under these cuts, most of them are working. Single parents, people with chronic conditions, folks who fell through the cracks of employer-based insurance. Yes, some parolees qualify for Medicaid, but parolees aren't illegal immigrants. They're people with legal status waiting for their cases to be heard. That's not fraud. That's how the system works. And yes, some people abuse Medicaid, just like some people cheat on their taxes. Some businesses commit fraud. But we don't shut down the IRS or ban corporations because of it. So why are we willing to strip healthcare from millions of people to punish a few bad actors? Because it's easier to blame the vulnerable than to fix the system. It's easier to say they don't deserve it than to ask why healthcare costs so much in the first place. This isn't about saving money. It's about deciding who's worthy of help. And right now the answer is, not you. Unless you're a billionaire. Then the door's wide open.
But since Donald Trump and the Republicans refuse to do so, because we refuse to pay for the Medicaid of able-bodied American citizens, because we refuse to pay for the Medicaid of somebody who came here illegally and went to court once, the Democrats are refusing to vote for the continuing resolution. Because we won't pay to reinstate the fraud, the Democrats refuse to vote to pay our military men and women. They refuse to vote to pay our federal employees. And honestly, we have way too many federal employees to begin with, so this is another opportunity to save more money. And since the Democrats shut the government down, Donald Trump is now entertaining the idea of terminating some of those federal employees to save more money, as well as terminating certain federally funded organizations that the Democrats appreciate. Democrats say, you don't pay for our fraud, we won't pay to fund the government. Trump says, if you won't fund the government, then we won't fund your Democrat programs. And all of that leaves you and me sitting back watching quietly, wondering who's going to cave in first.
I believe we're about to go through the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. There's about to be a lot of pain and suffering. Why do I think that? I mean, Trump already holds the record for the longest government shutdown in 2018, which is 35 days. And he's already shown us, so he has no issue firing people. And anytime he can make something about the other side and say that it's all their fault, even though he controls all three branches of government, I think he's going to take it to try to rile up his base. This is about to get very ugly. And personally, I think it's going to be the catalyst for a lot of bad stuff coming around the corner. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. And I'm already starting to see some MAGA people starting to crack.
The irony here is almost too perfect. Trump holds the record for the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, 35 days back in 2018. And now he's doing it again. But here's what makes this one different. Last time, Democrats controlled the House, so Trump could point fingers, blame them, say they were being obstructionist. This time, Republicans control everything, the House, the Senate, the presidency. So when the government shuts down now, who exactly is he negotiating with? Himself? This is what happens when you build your entire brand on being the best negotiator, but never actually learned how to negotiate. Real negotiation requires compromise. It requires listening. It requires caring about the outcome more than the optics. But Trump doesn't negotiate. He demands. And when he doesn't get his way, he burns it all down and blames someone else. The problem is, there's no one left to blame. His own party is fracturing. His base is starting to notice their paychecks aren't coming. And calling it fake news doesn't pay the rent. So yeah, this is about to get ugly. Because when you've spent years convincing people you're a genius deal maker, and then you can't even keep the government open with full control, eventually people stop believing you. And that's when the real cracks start to show.
Like someone said it was fake news that Donald Trump held the record for 35 days. They also said it was fake news that TSA agents and other government employees were not going to actually receive a paycheck until the back pay. But that's how it works. There's no paycheck until the government reopens again, which means every government agency, when they're not getting a paycheck, might be more likely to call out sick and do other things in protest. And you're going to start to see some chaos. And once again, a guy that calls himself the greatest negotiator ever, even wrote a book, The Art of the Deal, fails another negotiation when he held all the cards. Remember the Ukraine war was going to end in one day and all these other things he was going to end in one day? Calling yourself a great negotiator and being a great negotiator are two different things. And personally, I think he's terrible at it. You got to work with both sides, dude. You're not a good leader.
The government is officially shut down, and I feel like this is a good time for everyone to quit their jobs. Like, I feel like this is a perfectly timed type of situation. Like, the government shut down because they couldn't figure out healthcare budgets. When realistically, like, there shouldn't be a discussion for a healthcare budget because there shouldn't be a budget for healthcare because healthcare should be free. Like, that's where we're at right now currently. Like, we're past all that other bullshit because if our nation is fully funding another nation's healthcare and free education and free all this other shit, that's not going to work if we're not even helping our own country. You know what I mean? So if we're already there, the country is shut down, not really the country, but like the government shut down, we could just add some more. What's a little more razzle-dazzle on top?
You know what? There's something beautifully chaotic about this take. The government's already shut down. Essential services are frozen. Federal workers aren't getting paid. So why not just stop showing up to your corporate job too? Obviously, this isn't practical advice for most people. Bills exist. Rent is due. Life doesn't stop because Congress is incompetent. But the underlying point? It's valid. Because we're constantly told there's no money for the things people actually need. Healthcare, childcare, affordable housing, education, infrastructure. But there's always money for corporate bailouts, defense contracts, tax cuts for people who already have more than they'll ever spend. So when the government shuts down over healthcare funding while simultaneously protecting billionaire tax breaks, yeah, maybe the whole system deserves to grind to a halt. Not permanently, but enough to make people realize the economy doesn't run on politicians, it runs on workers. And when workers collectively say enough, everything stops. That's leverage. That's power. So while quitting your job might not be realistic, organizing, pushing back, demanding better, that's how change actually happens. Because nothing scares the people in power more than the people who make everything work, deciding they're done.
You know what I mean? Like, we don't really need to go work for these corporations. The government is shut down. And like, that might not really mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but like, why not just add on a little extra, get things moving, get the dice rolling, really? Because if the government has to shut down because you guys can't figure out a budget for people to have healthcare and for people to not be sick in a country that literally is set out to make people sick on purpose, then I feel like no one should be working. Y'all can't figure out budgets for healthcare when y'all are already giving tax cuts to billionaires and the rich are getting more rich. Just everyone should collectively stop working for the system right now. Like, right now is probably the best time to do it. The government shut down. How about shut down your job as well? Quit. Type B. That's just how I feel. Like, it's just an idea. I don't know. But I do. But I don't know.
You Latinos for Trump must be real proud of your stupid decision, huh? You think your little citizenship, your little permanent residency card, that little appointment you have with immigration coming up, or the fact that you've been here a couple generations makes you superior to the undocumented individuals in this country? Well, mija, the Supreme Court just said, if you look it, you must be it, and we must get rid of it. And the Latinos in the comments talk about, oh, well, if you look suspicious, then you should be stopped. Meanwhile, they're looking like a whole Aztec, a whole Inca empire. Mr. Madness, sir, do you not think you're on the chopping block too? The delusion is real, amiga. Your aspiration to whiteness and your craving of superiority nunca va a pasar, amiga. It is never going to happen. Your ancestry will forever and always remind you of the one thing you hate about yourself. Tú eres Latino. But what do I know, little old me, since you think you're a blanquita and untouchable? Go ahead, culera, stand in front of the ICE agent and speak the Espanol. Wear that favorite jersey of your favorite soccer team, amiga. Go ahead, don't be nervous. And see if you don't get snatched up for looking suspicious. Whatever the hell that means. But you should know, you did vote for this. Buckle up, ho!
Look, this is brutal, but sometimes the truth is, if you're a Latino who voted for Trump thinking your citizenship makes you untouchable, you're about to get a very expensive education in how racial profiling actually works. Because here's the thing, when ICE rolls up, they're not politely asking for documents first. They're making assumptions based on what you look like, how you sound, where you are. You think your passport is going to save you when you look suspicious? When you're speaking Spanish in public? When you're in the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time? This isn't about legal status. It never was. It's about othering. It's about creating an enemy and then giving law enforcement broad power to act on that. And if you voted for mass deportations thinking I'm one of the good ones, you're learning the hard way that there are no good ones in their eyes, just targets. This isn't schadenfreude. It's a warning. Because the policies you supported don't check paperwork before they ruin lives. They just act. And by the time you prove you belong here, the damage is already done. So yeah, buckle up. Because the system you empowered doesn't care about your vote. It only cares about what you look like. And that's the cruelest lesson of all.
Let me get this straight. Donald Trump is threatening to shut down the United States government because he claims we cannot afford to protect 15 million Americans from losing their health care. Yet, at the same time, he is willing to send 20 billion, with a B, dollars to Argentina to keep its corrupt government afloat. America first? That claim could not be further from the truth.
Well, in breaking fucking the news, this is going to be a 2-for-1 special. They have come out and publicly stated that they do not plan on paying furloughed workers for this government shutdown. So if you're a government employee, your government just said, go fuck yourself. Also, Donald Trump plans to unveil his $15 billion bailout for farmers in America because China stopped buying all their products. Farmers are estimated to be losing about $100 an acre. That's just the low end. Welcome to the shit show.
Farmer in Tennessee is finding out the hard way. Terry Holt is a cattle farmer in Moore County, Tennessee. And for the last 45 years, he's been picking up free cattle feed from the Jack Daniel's distillery every day for free. It's a byproduct of whiskey making, and through their cow feeder program, Jack Daniel's handed it out to local farmers like Holt at no cost. It saved him tens of thousands of dollars a year for decades. Now, that program is ending. Jack Daniel's is sending its slop to a renewable energy plant instead. Holt got 3 years' notice, but says, all I know is that's going to destroy us. No one is hearing our voice. No one is hearing our voice, says a man in one of the most heavily subsidized industries in the U.S., who's also been getting free cattle feed for the last 40 years. If you got 3 years to plan after 4 decades of extra profit, and you still didn't prepare, maybe your business shouldn't exist. The distillery's decision will affect the entire county. According to the most recent USDA data, 89% of the farms in Moore County are livestock operations. Well, hopefully you guys saved up, because it's not going to get any better for you with who's running the country right now.
Newsmax brought a farmer on to praise Donald Trump's bailout plan. Instead, he tore Donald Trump apart. Now, as you know, right now, Donald Trump's tariffs are destroying farmers. China has not bought a single soybean this quarter, and they're our largest export market. And farmers are hurting, and Donald Trump has a plan to send them some of the tariff money. Well, Newsmax brought a farmer on to praise those tariffs, but it went a little differently than planned.
I'm paying that tariff because my importer, John Deere, paid it. They paid it directly to the Treasury. Now, the President of the United States is going to take my money and give it back to me and call it a bailout? That's just comical.
Yeah, they're going to take my money. My inputs have been raised. I'm paying these tariffs. You're giving me my money back and you want me to thank you? Newsmax tried to get praise for Dear Leader. Instead, it backfired beautifully. And that is well done by this farmer. Donald Trump is doing nothing to help them, only hurt them, and even they are calling it out.
This farmer just said the quiet part out loud. Trump's tariffs raised his costs. China stopped buying. And now Trump's solution is to take that tariff money and give it back to farmers as a bailout. That's not policy. That's a shell game. You're not helping farmers. You're just moving their own money around and calling it relief. And meanwhile, China didn't just sit around waiting for the U.S. to figure it out. They went to Brazil, signed long-term deals, built new supply chains. They moved on. So now American farmers are stuck with soybeans they can't sell, watching their competitors thrive, while being told to thank Trump for giving them back a fraction of what they lost. And the fact that even conservative media is getting pushback on this, that tells you how bad it really is. Because when your own voters start connecting the dots, when they realize the bailout is just their own money recycled, you've lost the narrative. Tariffs don't hurt China, they hurt us. And no amount of bailouts will fix the markets we destroyed in the process. This isn't winning, this is damage control, and it's not even working.
The country have started going on TV and complaining, 1, about Donald Trump's tariffs, 2, about the trade war with China, and 3, that they're not able to sell their products. Specifically soybean farmers who are looking at losing $300 per acre of crops this year. So on a 1,000-acre soybean field, they're looking at losing $300,000. That's because China has not put in an order for soybeans in this quarter alone. They haven't put in an order of soybeans from American farmers since April, which means there's nothing being sold from the United States to China when it comes to soybeans. Where's China going? To Argentina, to Brazil. What's the United States doing? They're bailing out Argentina to the tune of $20 billion while ignoring farmers in the United States. And these farmers are now saying, we don't want a bailout. We need a trade deal. Because since Donald Trump's first term, our profits are down 50% because he keeps screwing with our trade to foreign countries. We need Donald Trump to actually uphold his promises and quit screwing around. We need him to stop telling us that he's going to give us back our money, the money we spent on tariffs, We need him to keep his word, to make a trade deal, and to quit screwing up our free markets.
Breaking news, Donald Trump is planning billions of dollars of bailout for the farmers. What? Yes, the soybean farmers and all the other farmers that Trump's tariffs have cost them billions. He's now planning to use our tax dollars to bail them out after his tariffs have wrecked their business. And I say no bailout. We can't bail out Americans protecting their health care. We can't protect them from their Affordable Care Act subsidies. We can't do it on Medicaid. We can't feed our children and others under SNAP and various programs. We have trouble with school lunches. We are cut Meals on Wheels for the elderly. But again, we're going to send billions to farmers now that Trump's tariffs have cost them their livelihood. I mean, this is so messed up. The tariffs caused all the problems to begin with. Maybe we should cut Trump's salary and all of his administration's salary because they clearly don't know what they're doing. What do you think? No bailout for farmers? What do you think? Cut Trump salaries, all of his employees, all of his administration? Yep, all of them. Let me know what you think. Love to hear from my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, my brand labels. We use this spatula to spatula them up. What do you think?
To talk about this soybean farmer situation. Yes, I am fully aware that 90% of farmers in America voted for Trump, but we still need to talk about the soybean farmer situation. America, Argentina, and Brazil are the biggest producers of soybeans in the world. America used to export a ton of soybeans to China until the tariffs hit, and now they have nowhere to sell these soybeans. Hence why soybean farmers are drowning and begging for help. China turned to Argentina to buy soybeans from. Argentina, in which is rumored to be getting a $20 billion bailout check from America. That's right. We are supposedly giving a $20 billion bailout check to the country that's putting our farmers out of business. Trump announced today that he will be meeting with Xi in the middle of November to discuss soybeans. And he says they will talk about the soybean situation. However, it really won't matter because by the time he talks to Xi, Brazil will be in the mix. Brazil's soybean crops come in December, so that doesn't really help our farmers. Some of these soybean farmers are looking to get into the canola oil business, but they can't fill out the paperwork because the government is shut down. It's almost coming off like America isn't first in this administration, and it's almost like they are setting these farmers up to fail on purpose so corporations and other countries can come in and buy the farmland at very cheap value. And that is why I think this soybean farmer situation should be shared. It is much more than just farmers needing a bailout. It's a whole slew of anything but America first.
So let's connect all the dots here. American farmers can't sell soybeans because of Trump's tariffs. China's buying from Argentina instead. And now the U.S. is reportedly bailing out Argentina with $20 billion, the same country that's taking our farmers' business. Read that again. We're funding our own competition. Meanwhile, the government's shut down because we can't afford to keep Americans insured. Farmers are begging for trade deals, not bailouts. And the only people thriving? Foreign competitors and billionaires who got tax cuts. This isn't America first. This is America forgotten. And the worst part? It's all by design. Because when farmers fail, their land gets cheap. And when land gets cheap, corporations and foreign investors swoop in and buy it up. So maybe this isn't incompetence. Maybe it's the plan. Destroy the small farmers, tank their markets, cut their support, then let bigger players come in and consolidate. And if that sounds like a conspiracy theory, ask yourself, why are we bailing out Argentina while our own farmers drown? Why are we cutting healthcare while protecting billionaire tax cuts? The answer is simple. The people in charge aren't working for you. They're working for whoever pays more. And right now, that's not American farmers. It's not working families. It's not you. So yeah, America first? That was always just a slogan.